If the U.S. gets involved with Israel in the Middle East conflict, Iran is threatening a, quote, all-out war.
Yeah, this escalating tension could put the U.S. at risk of Iranian cyber attacks. Joining us now is Jeffrey Wells from the National Security Institute. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, Jeffrey.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we wanted to have this conversation because lots of people are fearing what the U.S. involvement will mean for people here in the U.S. From what I've been reading, if there is an attack, it would probably focus on military bases overseas. But for everyone here in the U.S., cyber attacks seem highly likely because Iran has some of the most skilled hackers in the world, we understand.
Yes, trying to follow your previous stories. If I had known those were tough ones, I'm trying to be uplifting here today. I think that the sense of optimism I have here is that this rise of attention to cyber is important, but it's important for everyone to understand that Iran attacking the United States is nothing new. They've been doing cyber attacks at least for the last 10 for even 20 years. And so, it's what we're facing is not necessarily new. We may see an increase in the rate of attacks and the size of the attacks. And certainly the biggest risk, I think, is them most likely going after our banking systems, as Iran has already Israel has already begun to attack Iranian banking. I see the Iranians focusing on our critical infrastructure when it comes to power, when it comes to the banking. Bankings are kind of like the ports. If you can shut down the port, that really shuts down the economy in many ways.
It's a very good analogy. I'm looking online. It says that Iran has attacked Israeli banks, and it has spiked by 700% since this escalation just started taking place. That's quite a ramp up. And as we were talking a little bit earlier, that's sometimes the problem, is that these types of situations, even though they've been doing it, they can escalate very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's sort of taken a back seat, certainly as the kinetic warfare has escalated over the last 2 years, and certainly in the last 2 weeks. The digital space has kind of become not so interesting. And another challenge that we're really facing is that digital cyberspace is perhaps less protected, or the U.S. government is less involved in that space than we were a year ago. The cuts by Doge and the current administration's moving around. We currently have a head of Cyber Command, or NSA. CISA has been downsized. So the U.S. government is not really going to be there in the way that we probably would like them to, should this reach truly kinetic, real-world implications at American banks, at ATMs, or at our power stations.
Yeah, so Jeffrey, if I'm understanding what you're saying these attacks are not new. We're just more aware of it because we're paying attention to everything that's happening right now. But U.S. cybersecurity organizations have been urging businesses to be on high alert for these cyber attacks. What kind of cyber attacks have been happening, especially if we look at Iran's track record, that we may not have been following?
So, I'd say rather sophisticated. Certainly, with the rise of AI, you probably have seen some of this, yourself. Is spoofing emails, or emails that sound very convincing. I know that in my family, everybody's getting a lot of text messages over the last few months, especially, but in the last few weeks that don't seem to make sense. The idea of using disinformation campaigns that may be true, may be false. Just putting out that they've compromised something is another wonderful technique that the Iranians use, and perhaps doing some distributed denial of service attacks. But I'd say the biggest risk for most Americans, the trained security professionals are paying attention to the DDoS and others, is really back to the phishing emails, and the text messages, or the strange links that may be shared in social media, is to click here for something. Those are really the biggest risks that we all face, and if it just seems too good to be true, or it doesn't make sense, I say to think twice before you click.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting
And then
those.
think again, and then think again.
Yeah.
But how much harm could they do to us if I get one of those random texts and I click on it? What could Iran be trying to do?
Well, everything comes down to money, and so I think most likely is gaining access to to your device, to your passwords, to hoping that you'll get redirected somewhere else. Especially if it's a payment system. I know a lot of the messages that I've seen, saying that you have outstanding tickets. Or that you need to, enter new information in order to pay, to complete a transaction, that the information was incorrect, and so kind of using that to fund their operations, and to compromise and break trust. From our perspective in the United States, it becomes an incredibly hard environment to manage. If I've been attacked and then my bank's been attacked, if I have fraud on my credit card, it disrupts our daily business. It disrupts our lives in ways that are very complicated. And if you get into a small business, the recovery could take 6 months from an investigation to truly understand how they got in, what they've been doing, and do they have personal data, that have very sensitive information. Are they in violation, or are you as a small business in violation of state regulators or government laws about how you were supposed to protect that information? And everyone tends to play catch up after an incident happens, and nothing's more frustrating than not being able to get access to your money.
Very true. Yep. Jeffrey Wells, thank you so much for joining us. So much good information there.
I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I'm sorry I wasn't a bearer of wonderful news.
No, it's all right.
It's okay. We need to know the truth and the facts. All right. Thank you so much, Jeffrey.